That should start. There we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to the latest of our progress updates. A week later than originally planned, ironically, because of an Ofsted inspection. But hopefully you can all see my screen on the being presented there. So if you can please make sure that you keep your cameras and microphones turned off. And as I said just now, there's an opportunity for questions later, or put them in the chat as we go. Oops, that one. Okay, so just a very quick kind of agenda. I'm very conscious of time, and I did promise that we would be finished by 8 p.m. this evening. I know there's a bit of a football game going on, which I know some of us would like to go and watch. So we will get done before 8 p.m. So the agenda for this evening is just kind of a little bit about the challenges that we faced in the last 12 months and how the impact of those challenges have kind of impacted the work that we've done a little bit. I want to talk about the progress that we've made since the Ofsted inspection back in February and what that looks like and then kind of how that feeds into what we're doing in September. I want to talk about our school improvement action plan ready for September. And then what that looks like beyond September as well. We're going to talk a little bit about the school brand, and I'll put kind of brand in inverted commas, brand, and why we need your help with that. If you recall, kind of back in the early part of this year, I asked you for your thoughts and feelings about that. I'm going to share some of that feedback with you all. We're going to talk a little bit about uniform, the school brand and uniform. Those things are kind of linked together, I suppose, and we'll touch on that later on. And then there'll also be an opportunity at the end of the meeting for a Q&A. All in all, somewhere about kind of 30 to 40 minutes, I would have thought. So, things we are not allowed to talk about. Our most recent inspection last week. As much as I would love to talk about the outcome of that inspection, I am not allowed to. Ofsted have got a very thorough quality assurance process, which they have to go through off the back of an inspection. Fingers crossed we get the report back before we break up for the summer. But we're just going to wait and see on timescales on that one. But I'm not allowed to talk about that inspection last week, I'm afraid. I can talk about the one in February. For obvious reasons, I can't talk about this one. And the other thing that that I can't talk about, just because it would take up too much time in this meeting, is the professional development that we've given staff. And what I would like to do is to invite you to another one of these in September, where we can talk about the inspection last week and the outcome, and also the professional development that we have given some staff as we've gone along through the course of the last 18 months. So that's the kind of plan for this evening's meeting. So we'll just crack straight on, I think, and talk about some of the challenges that we have faced in the last 18 months and how those challenges have impacted the speed at which we've wanted to get some of the work done that we wanted to get done. Now, it is fair to say that in the nearly 20 plus years that I've been involved in education and the 10 years plus that I've been involved in school leadership, the last 18 months have been the most challenging for obvious reasons. The pandemic and the impact of the pandemic on everybody across the country, but particularly those of us in education, has been huge. And while we did a good job, if you recall, this time 12 months ago, to get everybody back to school before the summer holidays, and I'm really glad that we got to that point, and we got everybody back in September, there's not been a day in school this academic year where in the back of my mind I haven't been waiting for that phone call to say, I'm really sorry, Mr. Green, my child has shown some symptoms and we need to close down bubbles. And then the impact of that, and that's just been a nagging thought in the back of my mind for the entire year. Now, the term up until Christmas, between October half term and December, that was kind of daily, almost daily, just closing bubbles down and moving to remote learning. And it was just incredibly challenging. And that impacted some of the improvement work we wanted to do up to Christmas, because we were basically just trying to just get through to the next day. And then, of course, we had the lockdown between January and March. And again, you can't, we did a good job of trying to monitor what was going on in terms of remote learning and making sure that we were continuing to follow the curriculum. But you can't monitor teaching and learning. You can't look at behavior. You can't support the students who need supporting in the same way that you can do when the children are in school. And so it's been a really tricky year. And a lot of the habits and behaviors that we had established in the first few months of our arrival, from kind of October 19 up until February 2020, what we've seen is some of the children have come back to school having forgotten some of those habits. So we have to go through that process again. And it's just become really, really challenging. And of course, we, alongside kind of all of those things, we've also got the impact on the budget. So it won't surprise you to learn that the finances are, because of the impact on COVID, the finances are not quite as looking as rosy as they were. The Department for Education have thrown about figures. There'll be billions for this and billions for this and billions for this, and actually we haven't seen a penny of that yet. So a lot of our costs, a lot of the extra cleaning costs that we've had, the supply cover costs that we've had where we've had to cover teachers or staff who are missing, we don't get a penny of that back, which has just meant that we've had to make some saving elsewhere. And myself and Dr. Kay and the finance team over at Warrener had a meeting around the table today to try and work out how we can make some additional savings moving forward into next year. We think we've got a good plan moving forward, and that goes to governors in a couple of weeks just to sign off on that. But it would be really helpful if the government and the Department for Education could actually cough up some cash. That would be helpful for education for sure. And certainly the lack of clarity from the Department for Education has been unhelpful. The speed at which they get information to us has not been helpful at all. And it's we've had to change plans last minute. And as difficult as that been for us in the primary sector, my colleagues at secondary school, how on earth they've managed to get through the last 12 months is beyond me, really. And kudos if you do work in a secondary school. Hats off to you, colleagues, because that's been extremely challenging. Now, what I'm hoping will be the case is that come September, we are kind of back to normal. We'll be able to host our whole school assemblies again. We'll be able to get some cash in to cover some of those costs that we've had. We'll be able to kind of get our playtimes and our lunch times back together. But of course, the situation is ever changing. And while we can assume and start planning for things getting back to normal, school trips happening again, parents coming in for parents' evenings again, assemblies happening again, all of those kind of regular things that we would normally do, sports day, getting you guys back in for sports day. That's the working assumption, but we just don't know. And I don't think we will know until September what is going on in terms of kind of bubbles in school and that guidance. And I suspect that it will be very late in the day when we get some updated guidance from the DFE, which is unhelpful, but it is what it is. And we accept that it's a challenge. And those challenges this year have definitely impacted some of the pace of change that we've wanted to bring about. And some of the stuff I'm going to talk about a bit later on, ready for September, has definitely been impacted by the pandemic. But anyway, I don't want to dwell on that too much because we all recognise that it's been challenging. I want to move on to talk about the positive stuff. So you will recall back in February, Ofsted conducted a monitoring visit to the first, really the second, because we had one back in November last year. But the first of its monitoring visits was conducted virtually. And that was an experience for sure, a positive one. And the report came out back in kind of March time, which I shared with you. And there was full of really positive things. The inspectors were really pleased with what the information that they gathered and the evidence that they gathered in that report in February. But one of the only thing that they told us to do next was to make sure that the important knowledge that pupils must learn and remember is set out in detail for each subject and each year group. And we knew that we needed to do that. We knew that was the next stage of our curriculum development work. And the inspectors agreed that that was the right thing for us to be doing next. And what I want to share with you now is kind of what we did in response to what Ofsted told us. So what have we done since February? Well, what we would normally do at the end of an academic year is we've kind of just done the same stuff because it was what we planned to do anyway. So we have reviewed and evaluated our long-term curriculum map. So that's the curriculum from the beginning of nursery right up to the end of year 6. We've looked at what that looks like. We've reviewed it. We've evaluated it. We've made sure that the sequence of learning that the children do throughout their time in school, from the moment they walk through the door in nursery to the moment they leave in year 6, we've made sure that it's in the right order. The correct sequence, the coherence of learning is absolutely right. So we need to make sure that we're teaching things we're teaching the right things in the right order at the right time, so that children can know more and remember more. Excuse me. And it's what educationalists call building schema. So that idea that you collect a new piece of knowledge, you are taught something new, and then it's not just left in isolation, but you build on it over time. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that the stuff you're learning is in the right order. So a good example of this, when we sat down to review our history curriculum, we realized that we were teaching the Norman conquest of 1066 and William the Conqueror and the Battle of Hastings before we were teaching the Anglo-Saxons and the Viking invasion. Well, actually, that doesn't make any sense because chronologically, that's not in the right order, because the Anglo-Saxons and the Viking invasion happened before 1066. So actually, we've just had to switch that round and make sure it's in the right order. And there are a couple of other examples in other subjects where we've just had to make some changes to some of that long-term curriculum planning. And so we've done that. We would have done that anyway. We haven't done that because Ofsted told us to do that. We did it because it's just part of our annual curriculum review. And we've updated our long-term curriculum map and the sequence of learning to reflect some of those changes that we've made. Now, for some year groups next year, what that might mean is that we've just had to kind of just move things around just for 1 year. So, for example, we have on our long-term curriculum map, we've moved where we teach World War II from year 5 to year 6. But the current year 5 group have already done all their learning about World War II. And we took the ancient Greeks out of year 6 and put it into year 5. So what we'll do next year is just make sure that year 6 group coming into year 6 in September learn about the ancient Greeks, because they haven't done that bit of learning yet. So for the next 12 months, there'll just be a little bit of kind of tweaking to make sure that we fill up those where that sequence wasn't quite right. But after that, the sequence of learning is absolutely correct. And we know it's correct because it's been through a very, very thorough quality assurance process within the Multi-Academy Trust, but also externally. And what we kind of did once we've sorted out that sequence and we've got everything in the right order, we worked with colleagues from across the Multi-Academy Trust, so subject leaders from across the Multi-Academy Trust. And that meeting happened here actually a couple of weeks ago. So over the course of the past couple of weeks, subject leaders have been meeting regularly, and we're just working out exactly what it is that the children are going to be learning, that really specific and powerful knowledge that they need to learn in a particular year group, because it builds on what they've learned before and sets them up for what's coming next. And subject leaders have been working with each other to map out exactly what that looks like. And what I'd like to show you now is kind of what that looks. If I'm a teacher here, I'm going to pick this up in September. I want to show you what that looks like. So this is just one example, and I'll show a few examples just so you kind of get a feeling for what's going on. This is an example from science. Caveat here is that these documents are still draft documents until the 30th of June. So we're still working on them. We're still working away and just making sure that everything is absolutely in the right order and correct. So this is one that Mr. Elliott and Mr. Fox and some of our other science leads across the trust have put together. So this is year 4 in the unit light and lenses. And you can see quite clearly that there's a bit of work to do up at the top. So we've got some key inquiry questions that we need to add in, a bit of first-hand experience of that the students are going to be doing. And then on the left-hand side there, we've got the national curriculum objectives. And what Ofsted, when they came in February, were really clear. We've absolutely made sure that the national curriculum coverage is there. So everything we should be teaching the children from all of the subjects is very carefully mapped out. On the right-hand side, we've got prior learning required. So this is where the sequencing and coherence of our curriculum comes in. Have we made sure that we're teaching the children the right stuff in the right order at the right time so that the schemas build up over time? And we can see here we've got it noted down. So before we teach this light and lenses unit of work, we need to have made sure that we've got all those other bits of learning have happened. And then we've also got a where next. So how does this learning build up to what's coming next? The finished versions of these documents, all of these things will be hyperlinked. So you'll be able, if as a teacher, you'll be able to click on, if I'm teaching year 4, I'll be able to click on that link to the prior learning and be able to see the year 1 version of these. So I can see what the students have learnt and how it builds up moving forward. You'll also see the key vocabulary and definitions for that vocabulary. And that is common across every subject. So what vocabulary are we teaching the children in these sessions? We know that vocabulary and is a key driver for success later in life. And so we need to make sure that we teach the children the specific knowledge-specific vocabulary that they need for each unit of work. And then what we have is just really clearly, session by session, exactly what it is that we need the teachers to teach. Now, we're not telling teachers how to teach this stuff. We're just making it really clear what they should teach. So this is in response to the Ofsted feedback, the specific, powerful knowledge that children need year by year. This is what this is. And it's going to be, we've highlighted the really key knowledge. It looks slightly different depending on which subject you're looking at. We can look at a history one in a second. But we've selected that key knowledge really carefully. So this is just a history example. So we're in year 3 now. We're looking at the Stone Age to the Iron Age. And you can see here, look on the prior learning. On prior learning, we've got to be hyperlinked. And again, that will just take you back to the other information, the key inquiry questions, the national curriculum objectives, and the vocabulary. The reason why we've added the definitions is because if I'm a teacher, maybe I'm a novice teacher, maybe it's my first year of teaching, and I've never taught the Stone Age to the Iron Age before, and I don't know what a loom is. Well, actually, it's quite helpful to have that definition on that plan. We know that knowledge and that vocabulary will be taught, and as a teacher, I need to know what that vocabulary and that knowledge is. And then that's the sequence of learning. We just need to split that down into kind of session by session, what it is we're going to be doing, and some key dates down at the bottom. And again, to be really clear, we're not restricting teachers in the how they teach it. We're just making it really clear what they should teach. So, if you're in year 4 and you're teaching the ancient Egyptians and you want to teach the students how the pyramids at Giza were built and the reason why they were built, because that builds on work that you've done in year 2, then you are free to teach that knowledge however you like. So if you want to teach the buildings of the ancient Egyptian pyramids in the form of expressive dance, crack on. But what's really crucial is when I ask your children about it, they're able to tell me how and why the Egyptian pyramids were built. So we're not restricting teachers in kind of their professionalism as such. We're just saying this is the key stuff that these children need to know. We have these knowledge, what we've called them knowledge maps, and we have these for every unit of work for next year. And my colleagues here at Southfield and colleagues across our multi-academy trust are working on these to get all of these finished ready for June the 30th. And just kind of in terms of how we decided what we did moving forward. So our school improvement director, Steph Lovett, who I know some of you have met, has, I've worked closely with Steph for a number of years on curriculum development. She has looked at every curriculum that's currently being used in all of our schools across our multi-academy trust, as well as the curriculum that's being used in some of the other schools that she was a part of a multi-academy trust before she joined us. She's also been in contact with schools that Ofsted have highlighted that have really strong curriculum. So Ofsted have been publishing quite recently a series of subject reports. And within those subject reports, they kind of detail what makes a really outstanding history curriculum, what makes a really outstanding geography curriculum. And they've listed the schools where that is the case. And Steph has been in contact with those schools to find out what it is that makes their curriculum standout curriculum. So she has a huge range of evidence to draw on. And what she has recognised is that the curriculum that we have developed here at Southfield is absolutely best practice. It very much mirrors what the curriculum in those standout Ofsted reports, it mirrors what they are doing in terms of the research that underpins the design of the curriculum, the evidence that underpins the sequencing and the coherence of learning. We looked at what those outstanding schools were doing, and what we have done mirrors very closely what they are doing. Which was, that was completely coincidental, but, it shows that we are absolutely at the forefront in terms of educational thinking around curriculum design. And now what Steph has done is said to the schools within our multi-academy trust, this is the curriculum that's been developed at Southfield, and you need to be using it in your school across these trusts, which is quite a statement, really, and shows actually how brilliant what we're doing here is, that we would put this into schools that are already good within our multi-academy trust. I think that says a lot about the work that my colleagues have done here. And I've been in awe of the work that they have done here in terms of developing the curriculum. Of course, what we recognise is that actually there are some bits of our curriculum which we do need to just make sure we tighten up on. And so what we've done is kind of cherry pick the best bits of one other school's curriculum and marry it to what we're doing. We recognise it's an ever evolving and improving thing. And what we want to do is make it the very, very best it can be for the children here. So that's what we've done. We're working with a very, very experienced English lead and deputy head at one of our other schools, and we're picking the best bits of that English curriculum and we're putting it here ready for September. And I'm really looking forward to what that looks like. As I've talked a little bit about this already, we've worked with subject leaders from across the schools to map out exactly what it is we want the children to learn. Now, there's two phrases there, declarative knowledge and procedural knowledge. Now, declarative knowledge is the stuff I've kind of shared with you, the facts, what it is in terms of stuff we're going to teach you that's facts. Procedural knowledge is what you and I would understand as skills. So, for example, in year 3, where the students are learning to play cricket, it talks about a straight drive. So how do you teach the students to hit a straight drive with a cricket bat? Well, if you're not a PE specialist, and if you know nothing about cricket, you need to be really, really clear about what exactly it is and how exactly it is that you teach that bit of knowledge so the students do it properly. And there's two ways that we're going to do that. The first is for every one of those kind of skills-based bits of knowledge, there's going to be a video that goes with them. So in year 3, where we're teaching a straight drive, for example, there will be a video that the teachers can show to do that. Now, if the teacher is a cricket specialist and they play every week at Lord's, then fine, you know how to teach that to students. But if I'm a newly qualified teacher or early careers teacher, as those folks are known from September, and they've never taught a cricket lesson before, well, actually, we want to make sure that that bit of teaching is as good as it can be. So we'll give them the resources to do that. And what we want to do is to make sure that the children learn more, know more, and remember more. the basis of a really successful kind of school career up through secondary school, GCSEs, A levels, and universities is this understanding that I've got a really strong subject knowledge, because I can't begin to be creative or apply or evaluate or think critically about something unless I have a really secure subject knowledge in that thing. And that's why this idea of a knowledge-rich curriculum is really, really important. And all of the research that is currently coming out around curriculum design, and has been for a while actually, is absolutely about knowledge. And I'm really, really pleased that that's what we're developing here. What we also did with those subject leaders was just make sure that everything was in the right sequence, that learning was built on over time. And that is being rolled out to all schools within the Multi-Academy Trust on June the 30th, which I'm really, really pleased about. And from September, that new curriculum, not new, because it's not new, it's ours, but we've just evolved it slightly. The evolution of our curriculum here will roll out in September. If I lived 10 miles closer, my daughter, who is 3, would absolutely be here, because I know the curriculum that she is getting. And actually, as I'm now, she'd be starting nursery in her local village school in the village where we live. I am quizzing their head teacher on the strength of their curriculum. They know that I do this job, and I think they're kind of using using me as a little bit of a critical friend. But I absolutely, I would put my daughter here if I could, but I'm just living a bit too far away. Maybe if we move closer, then that's absolutely what we would do. But just moving forward, so what else are we doing from September, as well as kind of relaunching our curriculum, the next evolution of that? Well, we're also introducing a brand new phonics and early reading scheme. So up until September, we are using letters and sounds, which is a government-approved way of teaching phonics. We'll be dropping that, and we will be replacing that scheme of work with something called Read Write Inc. So Read Write Inc. was developed by Ruth Miskin, our English Lead former head teacher, and she's developed this scheme for teaching phonics and early reading. It comes with a whole set of staff training, a whole bunch of resources, some brand new reading books. So we'll get a whole set of new reading books for our students down in Key Stage 1. And the whole staff training is really, really important. Joanna, if I could just ask you to turn your camera off. Thank you. We will, so that's all being launched in September as well. And that whole staff training is really, really important, because I don't care if you teach in year 6, you may never have to teach phonics, but you might once. And if you've not had training in how to do that, teaching phonics and early reading is actually quite difficult. And so that is going out to everybody in September. We've got a new reading lead and a new phonics lead in place, ready for September. And so we've got a whole new way, well, not new way, it's the same, it's synthetic phonics, but a new scheme of work that we'll be launching for our students. And that goes from nursery right up until year 6, and particularly aimed at the lower end of the school. We've all stopped working. There we go. What we will also be doing, there are still, while behaviour across the school is generally very, very good, there are still pockets of bad habits that have kind of crept in over the course of the last 18 months. And what we want to be able to do is to raise the expectations of the children and their behaviour. So what should they expect of themselves and each other? But we also want to make sure that we've got a shared understanding of those behaviour expectations between us and you and the children. So we're going to be doing some work on that come September, and what that looks like. And I'll be talking to my staff in the next few weeks about this idea about building brilliant habits. Because there are a few habits that have crept in which we need to change because they're not the brilliant habits that we would expect. And we'll be working on that come September. We're also going to be looking at our strategic vision, our 5-year vision for the school, and what the values that we have that underpin all the work that we're doing. We'll evaluate those. Is it still relevant? Are they still right? Is it the stuff that we still live by day in, day out? And that we may discover that actually, yes, it's absolutely fine, and there's no need for an evolution. But it may be that we need to evolve those that vision and those values that underpin what we do. We're also going to be launching some parent support sessions for you guys. So we've had Rachel Cosgrove and I have been working with various families across the school who have all kind of come to us and said, we need some help with this, or we need some help with this. And what we've identified is a lot of those requests are very similar in kinds of themes. And so we'll be inviting some folks along to some of those sessions. There'll be drop-in sessions straight after drop-off in the morning. There'll be some tea and some cake and some biscuits where there'll be a bit of teaching from Rachel, and then there'll just be a chance to talk and to kind of offload and get some advice from us, but also from other parents who might be experiencing similar challenges as well. And we're going to launch those in September. That kind of coincides with the work that Rachel and I are doing on Thursday morning. We've got a whole morning booked. A couple of meetings first thing with some parents, and then on Thursday morning, the rest of that Thursday is spent doing an SEND strategy review. So a special educational needs strategy review. We've done some really good work around special educational needs in the last 18 months. What we want to do is evaluate that work. Has it been successful? What impact has it had? Have we managed to close that attainment gap that exists? Are our SEND students getting the very best deal here? We're doing the same for our pupil premium students as well. Actually, the students in receipt of pupil premium funding, are they getting the very best deal? And then we'll be putting together a strategy for the next 3 years. So those kinds of two things go hand in hand, really. And what then one of the other things that we're going to be doing come September, we've got a really clear strategy in school around how we teach reading and writing, right from the earliest years right up until year 6. And there'll be some things that we do in school that the children come home talking about, which you might go, what? I've no idea what you're talking about. What we want to be able to do is to offer some training to you as parents so that you understand how we teach that stuff, so that when your children come home talking about it, you understand kind of what it is they're talking about and how you can support that moving forward. And so we'll be doing that in September as well. So that's kind of quite a lot of stuff happening, really. An evolution of our whole school curriculum, new phonics scheme of work, some support around behaviour, support around parents, making sure our SEND students and pupil premium students are getting the very best deal, and some support workshops and training for you guys. And all of this was stuff that we've kind of had on the back burner for a bit, and we've just been thinking through kind of how we do it. And all of that information will come to you soon. Now, crucially, and I'm reminding myself of the penultimate point on the agenda, I'm not talking about the inspection outcome from last week. I'm definitely not doing that. But what I am saying is there's no reason for us to change the course of action that we're taking to improve the school. I definitely didn't talk about the outcome of the inspection. We're on the right track. We're doing the right stuff in the right order, and we're going to carry on doing that. That's really positive for us. So yeah, lots and lots of stuff happening in terms of kind of improving the quality of stuff that goes on here. And I'm really looking forward to September. Now, obviously, we've got 3 weeks before the end of the year. There's still lots of work going on in those 3 weeks before we shut down. Curriculum work continues to develop. We've got an external pupil premium review happening, so we've got some auditors coming in. That pupil premium review I was just talking about, are those children getting the very best deal? That all happens before the end of the year. We'll inform our action plan ready for September. So yeah, lots of stuff going on, really, and it's stuff that is the right stuff to do, which I'm really pleased and really proud about. So, take a breath, Matt. I'd like to move on to this discussion, the Southfield brand. you will be aware, as I am aware, that when you mention Southfield Primary School in Brackley, there's this kind of dark cloud that hangs over the name because of the reputation that the school has had for a while. And we've gone backwards and forwards on this idea about whether we should rebrand or not rebrand, change the name, not change the name. And we put it over to you. And we sought your views on this as kind of, do we keep things as we are, or do we create something new? And I just want to share a bit of feedback on that from you. So generally, most people thought that actually rebranding was a good idea. It's something we should probably support. There were some folks, absolutely, yes, we need to do this right now. And there were some folks who were absolutely, no, there's no reason to do this. Most folks kind of said, well, actually, that's probably a good idea. But what you were pretty unanimous about was that the logo and the name that we had kind of come up with and put as a proposal was no good at all. And actually, it was, you hated it, basically. But alongside those comments, the principle of a new logo would be a good idea, because that would sit quite nicely with a bit of a rebrand, but not a complete rebrand of the school. I'm not a graphic designer, folks, so I don't take those comments to heart, but I get it. There were quite a lot of some comments centered around how much the school has moved forward. And actually that the perception of the school is beginning to change within the local community. And certainly I get a sense of that. I pop up to Waitrose and go and get some food after school and end up talking to some of the people who work there. They often say, oh, yeah, well, I've heard really good things. And that kind of idea that things are beginning to change is good. And there was discussion and feedback from parents around kind of potential risks of having to grow a new brand and the pitfalls that may come with that. A few folks talked about the kind of analogy of a football club having peaks and troughs, and we're just a kind of bit of in a trough, and we need to work our way back out of it. I think some parents kind of likened that. I knew I was a Manchester United supporter and kind of put it in that context. I'm going, well, actually, that's fair enough. Now, we have thought, myself and Annabelle and the governors, we've thought really long and hard about what we should do here. Obviously, we've sought your views as well. And what we've decided to do is to keep the Southfield name. We want to keep the name of the school, but we do think that there should be some sort of rebrand. And the reason we want to keep things the same is kind of what I've just talked about, in fact. The rebuilding of the school, the word is getting out that things are beginning to get better, and we want to keep that momentum. What we don't want to do is to kind of change and launch something brand new and then lose that momentum that we're beginning to pick up. The reputation of the school, as I've mentioned just now, is beginning to change, and we want to build on that. But also, this school and the name Southfield is steeped in history in this town, and what we want to do is use that history to build on that legacy, particularly Mr. Stimpson's legacy. When I talk to some of you've talked very fondly of Mr. Stimpson and the work he did here, and we want to get back to that kind of that. We want to build on that legacy that he's left behind, and by completely changing everything, we would lose that legacy, and we don't want to do that. So I want your help with this, because this isn't just my school. It's not just the children's school, the governor's school. This is our school. And I want you to be a part of this as much as I am. And we want your help to create a new logo for us. Not just your help, we want the children's help as well, to create a new logo. Because to be honest, my effort was not loved by anybody. So I'm quite happy to say, well, do you know what? It's pretty rubbish, actually. Let's get rid of it and let's create something new. One comment from a parent said it looked like an alien's brain. I thought, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I can see that. Let's ditch it and create something different. So I want your help to do this. Now, we're going to keep the name. We're dropping the academy bit. I'm not a huge, I really don't like the word academy. We're a school. When you hear school, You know exactly what it's about. We're a primary school. We should celebrate the fact that we're a school, and so the school will be known as Southfield Primary School moving forward. Now, the task then is to design a new logo for us. It's open to all stakeholders in our school, so staff, governors, parents, children. We want your ideas about what that's going to look like. But there's some rules of engagement here. The first is no trees. Lots and lots of schools' logos have trees on them. Not so much in Brackley, but around there's lots of schools with trees as logos, and we've got enough trees on our site. We don't need any more on our school badges, please. So no trees. Could you somehow link it to the community? I had some ideas from parents, but also from our children about is there a way that we could link this to St James's Lake somehow? I don't know, but I'm sure that you guys will have some ideas about what that might look like. What's really crucial is that the colour scheme stays the same. So the dark blue jumpers, the white shirts and the polo shirts and in some of the blue summer dresses, those colour schemes need to stay the same. But the logo could have any colours that complement or not complement those. It's entirely up to you. But whatever you create goes on a blue jumper and a white shirt. Now, I don't mind what format you do those in. They could be digital. You might want the children might paint one. They could draw one, color one. They could collage if you wanted to, I guess. But it needs to be clear and be able to be transferred and stitched onto a jumper. So kind of keep it simple, I guess, is the kind of message behind this. And any designs by me by the 12th of July. I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing what you guys come up with, because collectively we'll have some way better ideas than me sitting in here on my own. And so this is kind of our school, so let's make it our school. And then we'll have a selection of people, maybe a selection of the children to choose the ones that they like the most, and then we'll put it out to a vote. Now, obviously that process has implications for uniform in September. Back in March, we relaxed our uniform policies, and we've allowed the children to come to school in their own clothes. I made it quite clear back in March that uniform would be reinstated from September, and so that's exactly what we're going to do. So, excuse me, it will be the same colours, so the dark blue and the white, and dark trousers, school shoes. Okay. The logo changes that we've just talked about will kick in from January the 1st, 2022. So that's kind of 6 months down the line. Now, there is no expectation, because that change is coming in 6 months, there is no expectation from me that the children wear branded uniform between now and then. If you want the students to have branded uniform with the current logo on, of course you can do that. Absolutely. Of course you can, but there's no expectation that that's the case. Our online uniform shop will continue to sell the current uniform with the current logo up until January 2022. What we will do when we've decided on that new logo, and we get it through the printers and we get it through the embroiders, we will phase in that new logo. So on January the 21st, there is no expectation from me that you suddenly ditch all the old logo stuff and put new logo stuff on. If you've got an old logo and your jumper still fits, carry on wearing it. We're not going to kind of jump suddenly from one to the next. That will be a phased implementation. So I just wanted to kind of clear that up for everybody. I know a couple of folks have been asking me about uniform recently, and I said there'd be clarity on that now. So yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff and changes coming. We're on the right lines. We want to tweak a little bit of what we're doing, but we are, I've said this a number of times, and I will continue to say it because it's true. It's such a privilege to lead this school. And to work with the members of staff that I work with here. They are so driven and so committed to doing the right thing for their children. But also now not just our children here, the children across our multi-academy trust. And I'm really proud to lead them. And I'm really pleased with kind of what we're doing in terms of school improvement. I hope that was useful, folks. I hope that kind of gives you a flavour of where we're going and what we're doing, and the feedback. I haven't had any messages pop up in the chat. I've been keeping an eye on that as we've been going along. But what I will do now is I will stop presenting, and then hopefully what should happen is you should now just be able to see me and the other folks joining the meeting. What I'll also do is stop recording, if I can work out how to stop recording. Stop recording. Stop recording.